Most people who are familiar with the manga Shamo have probably heard about its controversial protagonist. There's a lot of terms that float around him like parent killer, devil, and unredeemable. For as evil as a character as he may be, he creates a lot of interesting questions throughout the duration of Shamo. What really kept me going through the manga was Ryo's flawed character for better or for worse. Even when I found myself frustrated with the pacing, I just kept turning the page. I was expecting his character to go through some type of corny transformation into a loving and caring person, only for that to never happen. This isn't your typical wax and wane martial arts story. Within the introduction of karate, I was sure that this would lead to the personal betterment and development of our main character, but when Ryo gets released from the correctional facility, he uses his skills for anything but self improvement. He isn't even given a chance due to how he's garnered his reputation as a family killer. It's almost as the same as when he was stuck back at the correctional facility. Even the other delinquents looked down on him, even though they weren't good people themselves. What seems like his only gateway back into society in the form of martial arts only further cements that there's no coming back from what he's done. There's one chapter early on where we get a rare glimpse of Rio crying after a homeless woman tells him he's never been loved. So it's pretty obvious what Rio wants more than anything is to be loved, and one of the ways that he thinks will earn him his affection is martial arts. However, as he rises to the top of society, it still shouts him down and defames him as nothing more than a devil. And as we all know, devils don't reside in the land of the living. Now that he knows that there's no coming back from this, he gives up and sinks back into his depravity. He's not the only character who goes through this cycle, as it's plain to see this with Kurokawa. Even after doing his time, he's still a complete scumbag. There's even a chapter where he gives up and states that he will go to hell with the Bonryukai school before a Buddhist statue. He also states that he was using Ryo as a means to crush the Bonryukai school. In the minds of these two, they've already stepped into the gates of hell, so what's the point of trying to turn back? Hello folks, if you're enjoying this video, it would be a great help if you considered becoming a channel member. Tier 1 only starts at 99 cents, and you'll be able to get a couple perks like getting early access to my regular videos. Thank you. Instead of feigning some type of reborn front that many do when they try to change, they stick to who they are. Although it wouldn't be fair to say that Ryo stays that way the whole manga, because he does have some subtle changes as he goes back to Zero in the China arc. He occasionally does more good deeds. The biggest one shows his personal growth is how he responds to Ranga in his poor state. One of the more interesting things that happens in Shamo is seeing the returning characters and how Ryo has impacted their lives. It's like they're physically coming back to remind him of his actions and who he is. Ryo seems to have this ability to drag everyone down with him, whether it be his sister or his opponents he faces like Sugawara. The same fate lied for Ranga as well. Ryo has given him a proper burial when nobody else will, and he seems to show a little regret for sending him in such a state. Another example of something heroic he does is avenges the death of Roshi and En. All these things are done away from prying eyes, so it doesn't really change his reputation. Despite the public eye viewing him as totally evil, he ends up attracting a man named Toma who believes that he can save him. Natsumi sees him as a sort of angel because Toma is selflessly trying to save her brother. Toma is able to see something worth saving in Ryo that most can't. However, this bites him in the ass, as when he tries to fight Ryo, he psychologically dismantles him. Ryo might do some good things, especially when Shamo was rebooted, but he still has that dark edge to him and shows little remorse for his family's death. What Shamo does is open an interesting conversation on the nature of evil and violence itself. One of the most interesting chapters is 77, where Kitome says that the desire to survive is worse when you've never been loved. That's the second time that lack of love affecting a person has been brought up. Even if Ryo grew up having a loving environment, he still receives a fair share of hatred from people. Ryo is not given any incentive to change. But it's interesting later on the story where he gets introduced to his sister and his love interest. He seems to show a little potential to change as a person. It's cut mercifully short by his implied death. Throughout Shamo, it raises some fascinating themes, even though some of them I don't feel like reach their full potential. It made for a good concept nonetheless. Also, I apologize for being so indecisive on this video. I kept going back and forth whether I was happy with the script or not, but here you go.